Hello. I'm waiting for people to join. So those of you who will be watching on the replay, I'm just going to wait a minute for people to join. And as soon as I see that figure showing that people have joined, I will start. And if you are watching on the replay, if you do watch this on the replay, then do let me know. All right, we've got people online. So hello and welcome to Networking Tips for Introverted Women Leaders. And as you know, well, those of you who are regulars to my lives, it's been a while since, had a little break for a couple of weeks. And I'm back again now. So it's great to have you here. And as always, please let me know where in the world that you're joining from. We normally have a global audience on these lives, and it's always good to know what part of the world people are joining from. So welcome to Networking Tips for Introverted Women Leaders. So it's often not just what you know, but what you know that gets you a looking when it comes to opportunities. So not just what you know, but it's often who you know that gets you a looking when it comes to opportunities. And with a rumored 70-80% of senior executive roles and 75% of all jobs filled through the hidden job market, if you're not making networking part of your repertoire, you could be missing out big time. So if you utilize networking as part of your career development strategy, as part of your leadership development strategy, just type yes in the comments or say I do in the comments. Hello, Tiara from Scotland. Hello, Fago from London. It's great to have you here. You have to excuse me. I think I'm getting a bit of a cold. It's great to have you online. So yeah, do you utilize networking currently as part of your leadership development, your career progression? Please let me know in the comments. And for those of you who are joining for the first time who don't know me, I'm Carol Stewart. I'm the author of Quietly Visible, Leading with Influence and Impact as an Introverted Woman. I'm known as the coach for high achieving introverted women. I'm an executive and career coach, and I coach women who are senior leaders to be visible, to exude presence, to influence and make an impact. And if we're not already connected, do follow me here on LinkedIn or send a connection request. And if you're not a member of my High Achieving Introverted Women Facebook group, do find us on there. We've got a community of introverted women who are leaders or aspiring leaders there. Or if you're a senior leader and you are introverted, then join my High Achieving Introverted Senior Women group here on LinkedIn. So what we're going to be covering today is why introverts don't like networking. I'll be sharing some tips that you can utilize so that you can make networking work for you, and you can do it confidently in a way that feels authentic. And also I will be touching on how to make the most of virtual networking at the moment with social distancing restrictions. Here in the UK, people are unable to physically network. We're not holding networking events. And I know that is the case in many parts of the world. So I will share some tips on how to make the most of virtual networking as well. So hello, Michelle from Ohio. I've got a comment here that I know that I should network, but I struggle with networking. And hopefully what I'm going to share today will make it a more pleasant experience for you. And what I'm going to share is beneficial not just for introverted women, but for men as well, and also for anybody who lacks confidence when it comes to networking as well. So hopefully by the end of this live stream, you'll hopefully have some strategies that you can put into practice so that you can confidently make networking work for you. And if you need further support from me, I'll direct you to where you can go for help. So why don't introverts like it? If you don't like networking, just type in the comments why you don't like it. Why don't you like networking? If you're wanting to share, then please share in the comments. And the reason why I ask people to share, because oftentimes you can think that it's just you that is experiencing something, but when you see that other people experiencing it as well, it then takes some of that pressure off you, because it doesn't seem as bad as what you think it is, because you know that there are many others that experience that as well. So whilst I'm waiting for comments to come through, so some reasons why introverts don't like networking. So the environment of networking can be overly stimulating for people who are introverted. So introverts are overly stimulated by buzzy social environments, such as networking events or parties. And it's not necessarily that we don't like them, it's that external stimulation can be draining. And whereas extroverts are stimulated by they thrive in those sorts of environments where there are people, they're interacting with people, and they like that external stimulation. So that is typically why many introverted people don't like it, because of the actual environment. And I'll give you an example of how it can make some people feel. So I remember once I was at a networking event that was just a social networking event. So as in that there weren't any speakers, and it's the type of networking event that I don't particularly like, where there's not really a theme to it. So i.e. there's not speakers, it's just a matter of people congregating together, having talks over drinks and nibbles, that sort of thing. Those are the ones I tend not to like, because I do find it overly stimulating. And there was one particular time I was networking at an event like this. There was loads of people in the room. There was lots of conversations going. And I just felt, I came over really funny. And it was like the buzz of the voices just seemed to be getting louder and louder. And I thought to myself, if I don't leave, or if I don't step out of this, maybe I'm going to fail or something, because I just felt it was just really overly stimulating for me. And so what I did is I took myself out of the room and went into another room where there was nobody, and I just sat there for 10 minutes just to help me to recharge and to replenish myself. And that was because of that external stimulation. So I've got a couple of comments on why people don't like it. So it feels contrived, so I become self-conscious. Thank you for sharing that. I like it. It's challenging because I'm deaf, but work in a hearing world. And thank you for sharing that, Michelle. And another reason why introverts don't typically like networking is because we don't like making small talk. Introverts typically like to think and reflect before speaking, and small talk, we don't necessarily feel comfortable making small talk. We don't necessarily like it. And sometimes networking can feel that you're having to speak to lots of people and make small talk. So introverts prefer depth of conversation over the quantity of conversation, which leads me on to another reason why introverts typically don't like making small talk, is because they feel that they have to work the room and speak to as many people as possible. And by doing that, that means having to make a lot of small talk. So we've got some comments here. Tibe is saying that the overstimulation is really hitting home for her. We've got someone on Facebook who's saying that they don't like making small talk. And thank you for sharing those. Yeah. And so also, as I said, feeling that you have to work the room and speak to as many people as possible. And sometimes just the thought of that can make you feel drained, or you've got to go and speak to lots of different people. One of my clients networking was something that was required. She was a solicitor, and business development was part of her role. But she didn't like networking because of the reasons that I've described. And she likened it to being a meat market where, you've got lots and lots of people shouting, trying to sell their wares, and people are haggling to get the price down, that sort of thing. That was how she described it. And I could relate to what she was saying as well. So how can you make it work for you? So here are some tips that you can do so that you can make it work for you and you can feel more confident about it. So, as I've said, introverts typically don't like making small talk and prefer depth of conversation over quantity. So don't feel that you have to speak to everyone, because just the thought of you're going to a large networking event and there's going to be lots of people, just the thought of having to speak to so many different people alone can make you feel drained. But don't think that you have to speak to everyone. And what you can do is identify who you want to speak to in advance. So if you know who's going to be at the event, sometimes the guest list is sent out, or if it's like maybe an industry specific event and you know who is going to be there, identify who are the people that you want to connect to, and identify them in advance. And what you could even do is connect with them on LinkedIn and just say, oh, I see that you're going to be at XYZ event. It'd be great to connect, and I'll look out for you at the event. Get there early. By getting there early, it means that when you get there, you can sometimes you may find it hard to sort of go into a full, you get there late for a networking event and you find that there are lots of people already forming groups, talking, and that might just feel a bit draining, the fact that you've got to go up to people and start making conversations. But if you get there early, then where there's fewer people there, then it's easy for you to then start to strike up conversations with people. So we've got a comment here. As I'm also an empath, sometimes if there is negativity in the room, it makes it much worse. And thank you for sharing that. And when you go networking, have some starter conversations up your sleeve. And when I say starter conversations, I mean, if you find it challenging in just going up to people and starting a conversation, then by having some what I call starter questions up your sleeve, it means that if you're feeling like that, then you've got things to say. And so ask questions that are open questions that begin what, where, when, how. And when you ask those questions, then listen to what the person is saying. And once they've said what they've said, pick up on something that they've said, and then ask another open question. And do that for a bit of time so that the conversation starts to flow. By asking open questions, people will have to respond with more than a yes or a no. And so that gives you time to be thinking about what they're saying and reflecting, and then asking another open question. And then you do that a few times, then that helps to ease you into the conversation. And you will find that then they will start to reciprocate as well and might start to ask you questions. So you could ask questions like, aside from the usual, so what do you do? Or how far have you had to travel to get here? You could ask questions about the event. So if there's been a speaker and there's particular points of interest that you liked, then maybe ask them, or what did you think about what the speaker said about blah, 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 blah. And that just helps you to get into the flow of a conversation. And another thing that I often find that people don't like, and this is both introverted people and also people who maybe lack confidence about networking, and that is joining groups. So you've got to a networking event and groups have already formed and people are in full flow, speaking to each other, can feel a bit awkward about, well, how do I start to talk to people who have already formed groups? So a couple of tips regarding that. So go up to groups and approach groups of odd numbers. And the reason why I say approach groups of odd numbers, because you may sometimes find in a group that people have paired up and they're talking to each other. But in a group of odd numbers, then there may be, that's less likely so. So it's then easier to get in where there is an odd number. So go up to groups of odd numbers. Don't just butt in, just say, oh, is it okay to join? And listen, sort of stand, in the group and listen and join in appropriately. And again, using open questions so that you get into the flow of the conversation. And also play to your listening strengths. Introverts are typically known for being good listeners, and people like to feel that they are being listened to. So play to your strengths of listening. Listen to what people say and make them feel like you're listening to them. And finally, in terms of how you can make it work better for you, is how you view networking. So reframe how you view networking. So with a client that I described who saw it as a meat market, just going, people making small talk, people just shouting, as she said it, just shouting, oh, look at me, I'm fabulous, and all that sort of thing. That was what she didn't like. Rather than viewing it that way, she changed her perspective about it and looked at it as a way of getting to know people, then getting to develop those relationships outside the networking event. And if she felt that her organization can help them, letting them know how they could. And by reframing the way that she looked at it, that helped her to change how she felt about it. And once she changed how she felt about it, she felt more confident about it. So how can you reframe networking in a way that makes you feel better about it? So rather than viewing it as a negative activity, how can you reframe it in a way that is much more helpful for you? And if you've got any suggestions, then please share in the comments. So when it comes to virtual networking, and I know at the moment that is how most of the networking is taking place, is virtually because of the social distance restrictions. So here are some tips on how you can utilize virtual networking. So if you're not on LinkedIn, for those of you who are in the Facebook group, if you're not on LinkedIn, then I suggest that you join LinkedIn, or you can even utilize Facebook for networking as well. So identify the people who you want to connect with and look at their company pages. So if it's a case of you maybe interested in working at certain organizations, go to their company pages and look at who works there and identify the people that work at that organization that you want to connect with. Or if you're wanting to connect more with people in your own organization, go to your company's LinkedIn page and look down the list of people who work there and identify those people that you want to connect with and send them a connection request. And you could just send in a message, hi, we're both working at X organization, it would be great to connect. Or if it's someone who is working at a different organization, just send them a message saying, hi, if you can see anything that you've got in common, whether it's people that you've got connections in common or other things in common, you could use that as a way of doing an introductory message when you connect with them. Or it could be that, you're interested in the organization and you're just wanting to connect with people who work there just to find out a bit more about it. And if you're on a Zoom meeting, connecting with people that are on the Zoom meeting, and this could be if you see someone on, or it could be Zoom, it could be Teams, or whatever virtual platform it is, the people that are at the meeting, find them on LinkedIn and send them a connection request. Just let them know that they were at the same meeting as you or the same virtual meeting as you and you'd like to connect. Or get talking to people in the chat. So if somebody makes a comment in the chat and it's something that you want to maybe expand on, send them a private message and say, oh, you found what they said really interesting. You'd love to continue that conversation and find out more. Because then that privately, shall we connect on LinkedIn, or shall we connect over a virtual coffee? So connecting with people in that way and arranging to have a virtual chat with them over a coffee. And then you can develop that relationship and nurture that relationship. And so when you do connect with people virtually, it's about developing and nurturing those relationships, because that's what networking is about, developing and nurturing relationships. And how ways in which you can do this, as I've said, you can have a virtual coffee, you can comment on their posts and share them and engage with them in that way. Or if in the conversation with them, they may be certain topics that have come up that they're interested in, or a problem that they may be or having, or niche challenges that they're having. Send them articles, videos, podcasts, which are beneficial to them based on things that you've talked about. And remember that it's a two-way thing. It's not just about what you can get from people, it's about what you can give as well. So don't just go thinking, right, I want to see who I'm going to network so I can find people that can help me get from A to B. Think about how you can help other people as well, whether it's making introductions for them, whether it's sharing, as I said, something that is beneficial to them. Don't just make it about me, and take. If you do it from a place of, well, what can I do for you? Then you're more likely to get people reciprocating and wanting to help you as well. So any comments so far before I wrap up? Hello from Texas. We've got someone here joining us from Texas. No, so there's no more comments. So just to wrap up, I've talked about why introverts typically don't like networking, about the environment, about making small talk, and so on. I shared some tips on how you can make it work for you. So getting there early, finding in advance who you want to connect with, having your conversation starters so that you can make it, the conversations flow, reframing network so that it's more helpful for you, how you have a more helpful perspective about it. And also about using open questions to get the conversation flowing and playing to your listening skills, because people like to feel listened. And then I've covered how to make the most of virtual networking, so identifying who you want to connect with and connecting with them on LinkedIn. Also, when you're attending virtual meetings, reaching out to people in the chat and asking to connect offline with them. So that's about sums it up. So what will you do differently going forward? And do let me know in the comments. What will you do differently going forward? So we've got a comment here. Thank you, Carol. These tips are helpful. I will put them into practice. You're welcome. So what are you going to do differently going forward? Please do let me know in the comments. And for those of you that watch the replay, I will come back and any comments, respond to any questions that you may have. So hopefully now you're clear about how you can confidently make networking work for you in a way that feels authentic. And if you need further support, then do send me a message, a direct message, and then we can arrange to have a chat about how I can support you. And if there are any particular topics that you'd like me to cover on a Lunch and Learn live session, then do let me know in the comments as well. And if, as I said, if you're not connected, then do follow me here on LinkedIn or send me a connection request. And if you're wanting to increase your confidence, influence, and impact, then I have a free assessment on my website, www.aboundingsolutions.com, which will give you some ideas about what you can do to improve in those areas. And remember, do join my High Achieving Introverted Women Facebook group if you're not already a member, or if you are a senior leader join my High Achieving Introverted Senior Women LinkedIn group for senior leaders. So thank you for tuning in. And if there are any questions, right, I've got some comments here. Let's have a look about what people are going to do differently. I always like to challenge people to do something different as a result of attending these lives. So we have arriving early is a good suggestion. Thank you for that. Another one, I will arrive early and use open-ended questions. That's great, thank you. I will initiate connecting with people on LinkedIn. Brilliant. I will also reframe how I view networking. Fantastic. Well, thank you, everybody. And if anybody's got any questions, I will hang on for a moment. Right, I've got a comment here. Can you put those sites in the comments? Could you let me know which sites that you're referring to, please? Which sites are you referring? Oh, you're talking about my website. Yes, let me give you, I'll put the link in the comment. Right, hold on one moment. Oh. And the Facebook group, I presume you mean also. I'll put those in the comments. I'm presuming that that's what you mean. Right, so the person who's asked, can you put those sites in the comments? That's my website address. And let me get the link to the Facebook group. Bear with me. There's the link to the Facebook group. And now let me get the LinkedIn group link. Right, so the LinkedIn group is specifically for introverted women who are senior leaders. So if your profile, it doesn't indicate that you are, then you won't be given access to it. But however, the Facebook group is for all introverted women who are leaders or aspiring leaders. So thank you very much. And let me just make sure that there's no more questions I haven't answered. Well, thank you everyone for attending. And for those of you who are on the replay, watching the replay, if there is anything that you would like me, topics that you would like me to focus on when I do these lives, then please let me know in the comments. So those of you in the Facebook group, I will look forward to chatting with you later on today. And for everybody else, I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.